All right, Booktube, this is Eric. I'm back with a tag. This is the Booktube watching tag, and I was tagged by Michelle at ChallengeThyShelf to do this. So I don't do a lot of tags. It's not that I'm against them, I just don't end up doing them too often. So without further ado, let's get into this. How many channels do you subscribe to on YouTube? About 140. I did recently go through and hold on a sec, that's bothering me. Okay. I did recently go through and cut out a bunch. Just wasn't watching them anymore. The majority of them are book, music related. There's some movie stuff, artists, other general kinds of things that I'm interested in. When do you normally watch Booktube? Usually in the evening, usually when I get home from work or right before bed. It helps me relax. So that's when I do that. How do you balance Booktube watching, reading, and making your own videos? Well, the making my own videos, I do that whenever the impulse strikes me, and I have the time, energy, and material, frankly, because I do a lot of book hauls, and sometimes during the year, that works out well. Sometimes it doesn't. As far as reading goes, I try to read an hour a day. I'm not the world's fastest reader. I used to get a lot more reading done when I had a day job that had an hour lunch break, but things have changed and I no longer have that. So I try to do an hour in the evening if I'm feeling up to it and reading various different things. So usually I read every day. I watch usually YouTube every day. Making my own videos is whenever I get around to it. I try to do every 10 days to 2 weeks at least something. Okay, is there a difference between the videos you like watching and the videos you like making? I like making haul videos because I can show things and talk about them. For instance, I don't believe this one made it into a haul video, but here is, and I've got this blocked. This is Midnight Graffiti, which is splatterpunk short stories from the 80s. This is a Paperbacks from Hell. I've talked about Paperbacks from Hell before. I like to pick these things up because I remember seeing them on the shelf, but also because there's a history to them. It speaks to part of my youth. It's in a lot of ways, it's like an archaeology project to me to go back and look at things that were going on in a time I remembered, but I didn't necessarily understand because we were there, and with distance, you can kind of see things. Also, I like these short story compilations because you can check out authors that you've heard about but maybe not have read without, at this point, investing a lot of money in either fancy reprints or expensive out-of-print books. But like this has got David J. Shaw, who I never read but I know of. John Shirley, who I never read but know of. It's got Rex Miller, who I've heard a lot about. Joe Lansdale, who I read but never really got into back in the day. Nancy A. Collins, who went on to do a whole other thing with vampire stories that I've always wanted to check out. K.W. Jeter, who I have some of his books, but I've yet to get to them, and I've been wanting to see if his style is something I'm going to mesh with. Neil Gaiman, Harlan Ellison. So, I mean, these kinds of things are of interest to me, and I feel like I have something to say when I present it in that way. I don't tend to do book reviews because book reviews to me are what my fourth grade teacher taught us to do. The title of the book is Midnight Graffiti. It's short stories written by, here's a bunch of authors. I liked that they are dark or whatever, and then you tell what you didn't like and you say whether or not you recommend it. And I don't necessarily see a lot of that in the Booktube world or the vinyl community, which is another YouTube section or genre that I'm interested in. Okay, who is the first Booktuber you subscribe to and you still watch them? Probably Miss Moffat across the Litiverse, and yes, I do watch her when she posts videos. She's been on hiatus for a while, so there's that. Who's the most recent Booktuber you subscribe to? Probably Paperback Maniac, who does a lot of 80s and early 90s horror stuff. I've seen him recently talk about Mutants Amok, which is something I remember reading my senior year of high school, and that I read all 5 of those and eventually sold them off about 20 years ago on eBay, in the early days of eBay. So he's probably the newest one I've picked up. Let's see. An old favorite, I really like Beth at Remark. She's got just an energy and humor and an intelligence that I enjoy watching. And she's charming and fun, so that's what I like. What else? Old favorite. All right. New favorite. I just talked about Paperback Maniac. Should check his stuff out. Booktube pet peeves. I don't see a lot of people showing, old crime fiction or westerns for that matter. What else have I got sitting right here that I can talk about? I've shown all these books before, but obviously I haven't shelved them yet. Short story collections like this, I feel like there's a lot of the same, and I get it. People tend to like to read and follow what is popular and what's new and what people are into, but it just, after a while, it gets to be same stuff. And I don't see a lot of weird stuff like this. This is a mixtape, art of the cassette culture. This is nonfiction stuff that's fun to read, that's got a little bit of history. And once again, I realize this is part of my youth. This is something that probably speaks to me as a member of Generation X. But there's a limitation, and I see this with music as well, where it's hard to get people out of their comfort zones. And it's hard to get me out of my comfort zone sometimes, but I try to push it. You can see here all my horror movies. I've got Return of the Living Dead 3, and I've got Dudes and Revenge over there. But, I've also got Disney's Prom. I've got Midnight in Paris. And I'm only talking about films because they happen to be what's right here in front of me. Just while this is the stuff that I'm really into right now and that I tend to read, there's got to be room for other things. And even if they don't pan out, at least I tried them. And I just want a little more adventurism. I want a little more people being willing to talk about things that maybe aren't so popular or that people don't know about. So, okay, what have you learned from watching other booktubers? Basically that, I'm here to share what I find and what I'm interested in. I'm not here to talk trash about any books or people or anything like that. And what I just said about pet peeves, I hope that doesn't come off as a negative. It's more of maybe a challenge to people to, step outside that comfort zone. Check out something that you're usually not going to, you have a preconceived notion that you're not going to like. So that's what I learn about. I learn about what people are into, and I like it when I see people are passionate about things, even if they're things that don't work for me. Okay, that's it. I'm not going to tag anybody. Hey, if you watched this all the way through, thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was insightful. I hope my pulling random films, hey, look, there's Claudia Schiffer and Paget Brewster in a One Crazy Night film from the 90s. Pulling that kind of random stuff off my shelf and showing it didn't, put anybody off. We'll see. What else have I got here book-wise? Oh, so some Piers Anthony silliness. And I'm going to pull these out so I make sure to shelve them. Vampire Rock and Roll. The late Jack Ketchum, who recently passed. I may never get to this one, but The Satan Bug. This looks like a 60s kind of spy epidemic thriller, and it's got one of those great covers. What else? At any rate, enough of my babbling. Thank you for watching. I hope people are entertained. I hope people find something of value, and I hope that in all of these videos that I've done over time, that somebody sees something and they're like, I want to check that out, or I'm going to go read the synopsis on Amazon, or I'm going to read the first chapter on Google Books, or take a sample for my e-reader, or go to your local used bookstore or thrift store and just see what they have. So until next time, thanks for watching. It's been Eric. Bye.